Hello and welcome back to Energising Life with AKR Fitness. It's another special episode. I'm Jace. I've got Lindsay here.
Hello.
And I've also got AKR member AKR member Rachel. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to have you here. So tell us, who are you?
Who are I?
Who are you?
Well, I'm Rachel Thompson. I am now a half a centurion, 50 years old. I work in public health. So I'm a health improvement officer for children and young people. So that's been my passion and my life for probably about 18 years now. Before that, I was sort of, I guess, bumbling through life, not really knowing what I wanted to do, you know. So, yeah.
What made you decide to go into that field 18 years ago?
I think a bit of life experience, to tell you the truth. You
Yeah.
know, I grew up, I was a really kind of self-conscious child, shy. I kind of got into my 20s and had some really rubbish relationships.
Well, your 20s are fourth, though, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Learning curves.
You should be learning. And I think kind of going through that, having a few life experiences that you think, oh God, why on earth did I do that? Mm-hmm. And seeing, young people particularly that you think, trying to kind of help them navigate as well. You've got to do it yourself, that's the thing. So, and that's a lot of what public health, my line of work's about, is finding out what works for people and, how you can kind of navigate and make health an easier choice and, kind of make positive choices as well. So yeah,
it sounds like going through your 20s was a bit of an eye-opener for you, there was no real... There wasn't anywhere for you to reach out to, and it sounds like what you've done is you're now that person for people.
I'd like to think so. Yeah. I mean, my first job. I mean, I didn't get into health straight away. I was a manager of like a retail outdoor store, and I was great at it. It was always had good sales and all that.
Yeah.
But I just knew it wasn't right for me. Mm-hmm. That store ended up going into administration. It was a massive store in the UK, but they'd expanded too quickly. I went into administration and I was like, crap, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So there was actually a job advert came up for youth work. So I thought, I'm going to give it a go. So it was the most scary interview I've ever had because I was interviewed by kids. I got my own kids,
Wow.
Yeah, kids and an adult, and it was
for the company that you were going to work for.
Yeah, it was Murray Council up in Lossiemouth, Birkhead, Hope, and that kind of area. So
is that where you're from originally?
Well, no, I'm a scaly brat. So I was born. I've got Geordie parents.
A what?
A scaly brat.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, so I was born in Cambridge.
Made in Carlisle, but...
Yeah.
I'm sure that's an advert.
Went out to Germany for a few years. I think I was 6 when I came to Lossiemouth. So I started primary school in Lossiemouth. Got dragged up in Lossiemouth. And then I moved out to Aberdeen, 2012.
2012?
So, yeah.
So that's taken us up to 2012. So that was your life before. So
yeah,
and a little bit pursuits in outdoor retail, and then...
Public health started in sort of Murray as well, because I used to coordinate. I got the youth work job, and I actually... Because the store that I was working for kind of turned into Millet Spot over the Blacks Outdoor groups. So I was still managing them. And then I ended up doing the youth work sort of over that as well in my spare time. Yeah. And loved it. Found out I loved working with kids, which was a bit of an eye-opener because I didn't think I would. I never wanted kids and all that. So, it was that was then the shift. There was a job came up with public health. And in Murray.
Okay.
So that's where it all started. I did 6 years of sort of health improvement work. So I was going into schools doing sort of drugs education. I was coordinating, the biggest part was coordinating the mobile information bus, which up there was called the sex bus.
Sex bus?
Yeah, because it was a bus that you would take round
Wait, what?
It was a big Iveco truck, so it had been converted into like a living room in the back.
This is taking a turn.
Kids could come in and they would talk about what they wanted to talk about, and often because schools sex education isn't the most inspirational. I don't know what yours was like, but mine was horrific. So
I think
they
it
would
laughed
come
mostly
on
through mine.
Yeah.
Because we had such a safe space, it was really nice for them, and it was the usual chats. It was alcohol, drugs, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I was the sex, drugs, and rock and roll queen up there. So, so
that must have been quite rewarding and enjoyable.
Oh, very, really good. I loved it. I really loved it. So I did that for 6 years, and then I went into schools work, where there was a big target for schools to all be health promoting schools. So I was involved the turn in that.
Of it, was it?
Yeah.
Like, so vending machines coming out, healthier food going in.
Jamie Oliver.
Yes. No turkey Twizzlers.
Ruined school dinners forever.
So you were the person that would go in and try and promote that?
Well, you would be working with the schools. I think that was a bit of a change, and I suppose where your work sort of develops, I really missed actually, because you still worked a little bit with young people, but not in the same capacity. So it was more working with leaders in schools and education, and trying to get them to look at all different levels, partnership working, what resources they had, to make sure they were kind of on the right track. So that went on till probably about 2010, and then Curriculum for Excellence took over, which had a real focus for health. So that was a big game changer.
So would you say that whole time you were interested in health and fitness?
Always, always.
Okay.
I mean, even when I was kind of growing up, I was always active. I used to horse ride. Always loved going to the gym. I was never a runner, I must admit, and cycling was okay. I did sort of get into your spin classes. I kind of had fits and starts with fitness. I would kind of. It depends on the bits in your life where you would maybe get involved in a relationship and it took a bit of a back step to get fat and happy sort of thing, or what
it wasn't priority number one for you.
No. So fits and starts, but I did, I suppose, before I came through here, I'd got right into fitness again up in the leisure centre up in Elgin.
What did that look like, getting right into fitness just before you came?
Lots of classes. I was never a gym bunny. Okay. I mean, although I'd had experience in gyms, I don't think, I always needed somebody to kind of encourage me, although I was never good at somebody trying to beast you, if you know what I mean. The sort of...
Sergeant.
Aye. So I did a lot of classes, and it was a mix of like your... like flow classes. I got into the spin was my favourite. It was my very least favourite at one point, because the first time I tried it, I went blind and fell off. It was that I don't have a middle line. I was just like,
go. It was, you didn't know when to stop.
No. But eventually, when I did get my fitness up again, it became my kind of most favourite class. And, that's what I actually took up when I came through to Aberdeen, because I met my partner Steve, and I suppose I didn't do it as much, and I was travelling a lot then. I was actually driving from Elgin
did you still stay
to Aberdeen and at the weekend, so I would come through on a Friday, go back on a Monday, so it took quite a lot out of me. And then eventually moved through.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
18 months.
Was this 2011, 12?
Yeah.
You were doing that sort of commute and enjoying the classes, feeling fit.
Yeah.
And then was it Steve that brought you through to Aberdeen, or was that a job opportunity?
I kind of was looking for job opportunities because he was here.
Yeah.
So, and it was a very similar role, so it was all kind of good timing.
Are you still in that role?
I'm actually in a slightly different one because of the way Curriculum for Excellence turned out. The whole accreditation with health promoting schools changed.
Right.
So we wanted to look more around the support in the communities. There is still a health improvement officer for schools, but I work kind of with them. So it's more around communities, working with, like social work, third sector partners, all that kind of stuff. So very, very rewarding, very challenging, but rewarding as well.
Yeah, it sounds, you're smiling when you're speaking about it.
Yeah,
so
I do love it.
It's important to you.
I do love it.
So you've had your life up in Elgin. You've come through to Aberdeen for love and work.
Yes.
And what was that, 2012?
2012,
something happened then, did it?
Yes. I suppose I've always been a bit of a champion for the fitness, and with work, I don't know about, we've got things like healthy working lives, and I mean, working in health, that's one of the places where people are probably even more challenged to try and look after their health. They're not the people that walk the walk a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I was in a Healthy Working Lives group, and we were trying to sort of encourage even walking at work. So we had this group, and we'd planned a walk on Friday the 13th. 2014, it was National Big Fit Walk Day, so we were about to have a Healthy Working Lives meeting, and we had the walk before that. You know, it was just like a half-hour type thing.
So that's leaving the office, going for a walk, then getting back for the meeting.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And I mean, at that particular day, I wasn't really feeling it, to tell you the truth, because I'd been in Edinburgh the day before on a tobacco. It was a youth tobacco commission about the strategy that was set out in the Scottish Government one, in basically expecting tobacco to be less than 5%, I think, of smokers for Scotland. So I was absolutely knackered. I'd had a pool car. And I was like, oh. So somebody took the pool car back for me, and I thought, I better do it. You know, I'm a champion, you know, sort of thing. So did this walk, and then just about a couple of minutes at the end of the walk, I was one of the quicker walkers, chatting to the other quicker walker that was with me, and it was the weirdest, most, I suppose, surreal situation. Because I just said to Sandy, I said, right, I better go and cross the road and go and get my bag, and I'll be ready for the meeting. And just as I was doing that, I felt this dunt in the back of my legs, and it was basically a car. So it mounted the pavement and took me under the car. So yeah, all these things running through my head, because about a week's time I should have been going to Europe to do a motorbike tour of Europe. So yeah,
so you've not even stepped off the pavement. And you felt this dunt under your legs. And
it literally took me under. It was right underneath our car.
You were stuck.
Watched the wheels kind of going over and kind of. So
can you remember that vividly?
Yeah, I didn't pass out. So.
What were your thoughts in that time?
A lot.
Yeah,
It was the first when I felt the dunt, it was like, what the bleep is happening to me? You know, I'm going on holiday. I'm meant to be going to Europe, and you know,
but you knew something is happening.
Yeah,
right?
it was weird. You know, and the next sort of bit, I suppose, once I'd seen the wheels going over, is I had a jacket on, and it was dragging me slightly. It was an automatic. Luckily, it was a Micra. It wasn't a massive car.
Luckily.
It's still quite heavy coming over your chest.
So
you caught your jacket.
It caught my jacket. It was kind of dragging me, so I could see the curb, because it was kind of, I suppose, a bit like this, and I could see the curb, and I was like, no, it's going to stop. Don't worry, because if it hadn't stopped, my neck would have gone like that. So, yeah, and then it just all kind of stopped and got really quiet, and I could hear people sort of around saying, it's all right, as in the woman in the car. And I'm like, the woman in the car, you know, I'm like, I'm here.
Did they not know
the car was
there?
No, they didn't know where I was. The car was sort of sitting on my chest. So I just kind of started screaming to get a bit of attention, and that's when it all was a bit kind of got very sort of surreal, you know. There was lots of people there. I remember people looking at me, you know, just going, is she all right? I knew it was hard to breathe because, you know, it was on my chest.
On your chest might do that.
So, I mean, luckily, I was surrounded by medical people, you know, that's kind of one of the saving graces. I think the other saving grace was because I was actually really fit, because I'd come back and started getting into spin classes and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it was somebody orchestrated. I don't know how long it took to get an ambulance there. It was just the timing was just a bit, because I mean, I eventually got doped up with so much medication, you know, was it morphine and ketamine?
Yeah.
How long were you under do you know how long you were under the car for? How long you were?
I think it was possibly about an hour. And then they lifted before the ambulance came, because I remember the ambulance, I'm still friends with a lot of the people. And one of my pals, she actually said, we need to get this car off of her.
Yeah.
And there was passers-by stopped and lifted the Micra. I have no idea how they would have done that, but they lifted it off me.
And then you were able to get out.
Well, yeah, I was still had to be kept in that kind of position. So, the paramedics and that, you know, I remember asking them if I'm going to sort of die. And I think one of them said, it's, you know, I've never heard of anybody dying of a broken leg. And they obviously didn't know what the kind of injuries were then. I mean, I did have pretty awful injuries.
So,
what were the injuries?
Let's get into that. So, like, say that's happened. You go into hospital. It's probably a few days till you're start of understanding what's all happened. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how it felt?
Yeah, I mean, even the journey from sort of getting from, you know, the ambulance, I mean, I knew there was some major kind of things going on because the pain, I think the first thing that they knew there was my leg was broken and potentially pelvic damage. Yeah. But by the time I got into hospital, you know, I was really struggling and feeling quite nauseous and that. And I remember people, I don't know if you've been in hospital yourself, but people looking over you. And this poor man said, he was like kind of looking at me and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm feeling a little bit sick," like that, you know. And I remember kind of coughing up or being sick with like lots of blood. So I'd actually had massive like internal bleeding. Yeah. Both my lungs were punctured, so that was probably a saving grace with my fitness because the oxygen levels would have been pretty good that keep me going. But I had, supposed working from the top, my clavicle was broken, 4 broken ribs. My pelvis was broken on my left, and I also had this, my right femur was basically kind of shattered, and I think my consultant described it when he went in, was like trying to bring a bag of crisps back together because the bones were just all mush. So yeah, so a lot of pretty nasty damage, and I was really lucky, I think, to kind of be alive. So
and how long did it take for all that to
heal?
Heal, but like, how did you, where did your mind go in that first few weeks, months?
I suppose there's a lot of kind of what the hell has happened sort of thing, you know. I've always been quite positive and smiley though, so that's the funny thing in hospital is I could still put a smile on my face, and I've always got that blooming public health kind of. I remember when I was in ITU, I mean, it was an 11-hour operation, and I couldn't have had any more blood put into me because that's just the medical sort of boundaries, you know. So I remember waking up in ITU, you know, your tubes sticking out of you and all that sort of stuff, and somebody was like, "Are you okay? Would you like to scrub your teeth?" Because my face was a bit of a mess as well. Yeah. And they gave me a toothbrush and a bit of water, and I'm like, what's the water for? And they were like, to rinse out. And I'm like, spit, don't rinse. So I mean, even back then, I was kind of like, you know. But I had 5 weeks in Forester Hill in various sort of departments, and then had to go up to Wood End for the whole rehab. So I was in Wood End for another 6-7 weeks.
Okay.
But I mean, for 9 weeks of that, I think the hardest thing to deal with was because of the injuries that I'd had in this leg, in my right leg. I had a big nail put in it that went from here down to my hip, right down to my knee.
Just a solid nail?
Yeah, it's a big like nail with screws and stuff like that. So when they do that, they've, you know, with I suppose the severity of the operation at the time when they're saving your life and all that sort of stuff.
And your leg, probably.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. They have to decide on what thickness they put in and all that. And at the time, he decided on a certain size. So it wasn't the right size, unfortunately. I was made to stay in bed, not allowed to get out of bed at all.
For 9 weeks.
For 9 weeks. So,
and being such an active person, Rachel, how did
horrible. I mean, it's not even, it's the dignity side of things as well. I mean, it's really frustrating. No toilet. I mean, you're catheterized, you know, so you're on the other side of things. You have to do it in the bed, and so it's not nice. No. It was horrible and really frustrating.
Rachel, can I just ask, how do you feel chatting about it now?
I don't mind that sort of side of things. Or was it just a fly here there? I don't mind about that sort of side of things. I think it's the emotions when you start talking about that. So that's when you'll probably get a bit of a greet. So I'll try not and say that. Don't you do it. I know what you're like.
That's why I'm not going there. So yeah, you're able to speak about it, but when you put yourself back into that hospital bed through that 9 weeks, it can cause it all flooding back.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So during that 9 weeks, you're in the hospital, you're coming to terms with everything, you've been through a really horrific time.
Yeah.
After the 9 weeks, what then happened?
I think that's when my stubbornness kicked in. I had some some of the times it's fun. I mean, hospitals, they're the weirdest places. I mean, they're the most amazing places, what they can do for you, but they're pressured as well. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it was Wood End because they're a place that's a bit like a military operation. Yeah. You get woken up at 7:30 in the morning for painkillers, your breakfast, you've got to get dressed. And I can see the total, reason for that. But there's also times where, when you can actually get the joy to go to the toilet, get out of bed. Mm-hmm. So you have to get in a wheelchair or a commode or whatever it is that you've had to use at the time. And then you get put into the toilet and then you're like, right, I've done my stuff. And you're pulling on and nobody comes for you. So that's a bit frustrating because it's actually, it was really quite painful, some of that. So I was a bugger, I tell you. I broke out the toilet once because I lost the kind of patience to wait for somebody. So I don't know how I managed, but this was on a commode. I managed to kind of take the brakes off the wheels and try and navigate my way to the lock. And I think this was actually during visiting time as well. And I kind of managed to open the door and fling myself out into the ward.
Sheer determination and annoyed, frustration.
Really are the queen of rock and roll, are you?
I am.
Breaking out of toilets and moving
Breaking out of toilets, not meant to be moving.
So stubbornness got you through that.
Yeah.
Was that a turning point for you to be like, I can't be here anymore?
I knew I couldn't be there. It was, it was still a long time after that. I just wanted out as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the real challenge as well. You become, I don't want to get really institutionalized because that was pretty much 3 months in the hospital, Mm-hmm. It was the sunniest summer. I love the sun. I love the work. And it was so horrible having to be in a hot, stuffy hospital, just dying to get outside. My friend, she came and braked me out one day as well in Wood End and took me outside. Yeah. So it was good. I've so many sort of friends that supported me through it. So. But I think once I got able to, transfer into like a wheelchair or whatever, things started to happen pretty quickly. Yeah. Using the tools. The biggest thing is the wastage of your muscles. Even in 2 weeks, I couldn't get over when I first stood up. My butt cheeks had totally it was like somebody had sliced my butt cheeks off. They were flat. There was nothing there,
Just gone.
It was
not used
at all, and it was I'd had to have a second operation as well, which was kind of a bit and I was kind of quite worried about the way that my leg would function this one, because the muscles, I suppose, within 2 weeks, and then having to have a second operation to put a second nail in because it didn't heal the bone. So I was kind of worried about what I was gonna be like if I left it too long. So that was always in the forefront of my get up, get walking, which was a challenge. Some of the things that you get made to use are. I made some wonderful friends in hospital. Some older people. It was mostly older people. Because you go into hospital, hip breaks. Yeah. It's all older people. So, we had names for the machines, the boob cruncher and the Harley Davidson and all that sort of stuff. So
that's what
it really kept me going.
Yeah.
It really kept me going. Yeah, totally. So I think from actually getting onto the equipment that got you upright, trying to walk, I think I was 2 weeks, and that was me, because I got out. I was aiming to get out for my birthday. So,
and what? It was 2014.
Yes. Yeah. So 43. Yeah.
Did you get out for your birthday?
I did. I got out 2 days before my birthday.
Amazing.
Nice.
So
celebrations at home, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
But that was the real sort of battle, I suppose, getting into a home environment, because you are looked after in a hospital. when you get home, you've got a certain amount of time, maybe people are looking after you, can make you cups of tea, but you've got to get up and do it yourself. And
there's obviously not the same handles kicking around to drag onto you.
Having to use a Zimmer frame with a little tray that you can actually put your cup, even that's, trying to do things one-handed and all that. It's so challenging. And you just, that's when I think your mental health really sort of kicks in. Yeah. You start to kind of think, this is tough.
Going into that, just talk us through what was your mindset like now looking forward? You're out, you're in your own home.
I wanted to get back to work. That was my biggest thing. It was like I just had to. I knew my body was done, but I wanted to get back to work. And I kind of said to my boss, I was lucky that she actually agreed that I could do bits of work from home. So I think that kind of helped me as well, the various projects. So, I think it was the end of August that I got out. I had to go through, I was doing things like the hydrotherapy. I was lucky enough to get into that, physiotherapy. I think it was the January that I started doing a few projects from home just to kind of
keep your brain
up, because your brain just is, it's all, you start over, especially when I suppose you've got bits like the accident, because I was suffering from PTSD.
Trauma.
So even sort of getting over that, and I had to get sort of therapy to help with that anyway. So, I got that in, what would it have been? I think it was 2015. I managed to see a professional for that, got some weird treatments. And
did that help?
Yes, it did. I had this thing called EMDR, which I'd been seeing the guy who thought cognitive behavioural therapy would have been the way, but I'm also a bit of an avoider. So when you're an avoider, cognitive behavioural therapy is not the best thing to do. And you've also got to put yourself back in a place and reflect on, why you kind of froze when you were, a car went by or whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to put myself back in that place. So I think I'd been seeing him and had a good few chats with him. I think it was about 6 weeks. And he'd said, I think you're a avoider. He'd actually been trained in EMDR, and he'd done quite a few people. And he'd said it's more evidence-based, I think, than CBT. And it's a really interesting therapy, but it means kind of I guess it's, if you think of a trauma in your brain as if you think of it as a mass, it doesn't get shifted over. That's the problem with trauma. It doesn't go into the long term and get processed properly. So there's lots of things. So any emotions, like your relationships, if you've got anything that might be niggling you, that can attach itself to that particular trauma, and it can build and just snowball. And that's how people can end up in some of the positions they're in. So it was the weirdest thing. It was looking at a finger going like this, and him speaking to you, asking you these questions, and it was just the weirdest. But when I had it done, you said, I can actually physically see your shoulders have kind of dropped, you've relaxed. So yeah, I had that treatment, and it was the most amazing thing, and it came at a great time as well, because I had things like wanting to go to Goodwood, which, I'm a bit of a motor sports freak as well. So, going down there and being and feeling safe and that, because that's one of the things, the noises that can trigger you and all that sort of stuff. So
that's 2015, and you're starting to get better mentally. Talk me through from 2015 to late 2019 then.
Oh, well, I did have a bit of a setback. The metalwork, the second lot of metalwork that I had, so that was late 2016. I'd been getting on. I'd managed to get off my crutches, but I'd actually bought a new car, and I thought, I'm a bit uncomfortable in my hip area, and I thought it was maybe because I was sitting differently. So I left it a wee while, and I think it was Christmas Eve. I actually had been to the doctor's, and she said, right, let's get you up, get you x-rayed. And it turns out my metalwork had snapped. So I had to go into hospital in the January to get the nail taken out. So I'd been walking about for 3 weeks with a broken leg, so it kind of gives you an idea of how stubborn I am. So yeah, I went into hospital. I actually got a half nail put in. So I think it was a bit of a. Every cloud has got a bit of a silver lining, because the long nail never felt right.
Okay. Yeah.
Felt, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. So I think it should have snapped. I'm glad it did. Meant another week in hospital, which wasn't great. A bit of a setback. But that also, once I'd kind of got over the hospital issue, I'd like, right, I really need to get into, because I'd been not doing fitness. I was lucky. I wouldn't really go out for a walk with the dogs and stuff like that. So, there was little bits that I would do, but not an awful lot. So I'm trying to think when it was. I got involved with one of the private physios, and thought Pilates is the way I wanted to go, because I knew, I'm 2 centimetres shorter on my right side, and I knew that my core was a way to kind of try and keep, the back pain that you get and all that sort of stuff. So I got into them and got fit. I also wanted to go to Silverstone for the MotoGP, and that's a lot of walking and everything. And I thought, right, get myself sorted for that. So I got into that.
And so it was Pilates.
Yeah, I loved it.
And that was after coming out of hospital, getting your hip and leg sorted.
Yeah.
And that was like a turning point. Like,
totally.
Okay, I need to get back to exercise. I know how good it makes me feel. And Pilates was like, you're in on that.
Totally. I had to have quite a few intensive physio sessions to get me, I guess, fit for the Pilates. But that was a good thing. It was very specific. It was, patient focused, I suppose, so they knew exactly, they were looking at me holistically, which is, the NHS ones, bless them, they tend to look at the injury. So I think once somebody looked at me as a whole person, that's what made a big difference. And I got into the Pilates and I was doing it 3 times a week, loved it. I knew I always needed to do a bit more, but I stuck in the comfort zone for that. But it was probably a good thing to do at the time, So.
And you clearly weren't ready for the other stuff yet.
No. But I kind of got out and I was walking a lot more. The kind of lockdown thing came in last year, which
March 2019. I'm lost. 2020, March 2020. So you were doing your Pilates from 2017, which is that right?
Yeah.
So 2 years Pilates, 3 times a week, knowing that, I probably need to do something else. Yeah. And the lockdown happened. Yeah. And then from there.
Well, lockdown was it was good in a way, because my partner actually got furloughed. So what we would do in the morning, we would be getting up at 7:00, and we'd ended up doing this 4-mile walk, in the morning. And sometimes we would do the same in the evening. And I really enjoyed it. It was just never quite enough. And it wasn't as consistent as it could be. He ended up sort of getting back to work. And so I'd still do a bit of walking, but I knew it wasn't enough for me, especially when you're 50. You need to do a bit more. Yeah. I obviously knew that 50 was coming up as well, and my weight had gone up slightly. I'd never been a really large person, but I know with the injuries I've got, when I get heavier, that's when, like my knees start to really feel it, all that sort of stuff. So I'd started writing a bit of a list of things I wanted to do before I'm 50, although I'm being kind on myself and spreading it out of a little more time. And one of the things that kept popping up was paddleboarding, and people doing these paddleboard sessions, the sunrise and the sunset ones. I thought, I'd like to get on a paddleboard and give that up right on my list. Yeah. And then I don't know if it's that thing where Facebook listens to you or whatever, but this Sup to Summit thing popped up. And I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. It was a paddleboard from the Great Glen, it's called. So you go from Ben Nevis to Inverness. So my pal, who is also doing a test run here just now, she got into paddleboarding during lockdown. So I said, what do you think about this? Do you fancy it? Because I thought there's no way I was going to do it on my own. She went, oh yeah, that sounds amazing. So we signed up to it, and I hadn't even been on a paddleboard. So I didn't even know if I could stand on one. Yeah. So that was my catalyst to going, right, Rachel, you really need to get your finger out your backside and get fit. And that's when you guys started popping up as well, more often. So I thought, right, I'm going to give it a go, because I'd seen it a few times, and I thought I'll give it a shot.
What was it about us popping up all the time that you thought, you know what, you could have went anywhere, and I don't know if you'd had experiences in gyms in the year previous, or like what was it about AKR in that moment that you thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it?
Well, I liked the look of it for a start, but I'd also known there was another person that comes here, Lizzie. Yeah. Shout out to Lizzie.
Oh, don't do that, Sarah.
She'll love that, Rachel.
So I knew that she'd had an amazing time here, and that she'd come on leaps and bounds with her fitness, and I trusted in that. So I just thought, right, I'm gonna sign up to it, and I suppose, I mean, it was still a difficult decision, but I definitely knew that I had to do something. So even walking in through that door for your first sort of consultation, that was quite nerve-wracking.
I remember it well. I do. I really do. I remember you coming in, and I remember us sitting down there. The goal of the stand-up paddleboard, you still hadn't been on one yet.
Yeah.
And this was like maybe a year before, was it?
This was in November last year.
When this airs, you'll just be with us a year.
Yes.
So I remember you telling me your story. I was probably greeting. But then in my head, I'm like, I just knew that we could definitely help you get on that paddleboard and be confident and love it. So just bringing that back, you said you were a little bit nervous walking in. Did that ease?
Yeah, totally. I think once I kind of sat down and spoke to you, it was, I knew I was doing the right thing. And I think I knew even, I mean, probably into week 1 of the chat, right, I'm signing up. I mean, it was, I have been to other gyms before.
I remember you had a bad experience. Did I remember that right?
Yeah, I don't know if it was possible, because it was round about a similar time that the metalwork had snapped. I'd went to, I'm allowed to say them?
No.
Anyway, I went to that gym, and it seemed like it was going to be okay, because part of it was very personalised, but then you were just left to get on with things, and that was it. There was no checking in or anything like that. So
did they give you a program to follow?
Exercises, and it was back to gym rather than my love is kind of more
class.
I think it's the classes. I think it's the energy of other people. That's kind of what gets you through. I'm not, and also I don't like to kind of watch myself do stuff either. And there was mirrors everywhere, and I think there was, I don't know. You just felt a bit conscious, because I was. At that time, I was still really quite waddly, and nobody really knew, so I didn't enjoy that at all. And also, I worried, because I thought, oh God, if I do exercise, is my metalwork going to fail again? Because you just don't know.
It's going to be in your head, though, is it?
Yeah.
So you came into AKR nervous, a little bit apprehensive because of experiences you had before.
Yeah.
But you said the nerves kind of
totally
went away.
You were a gem.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I was shouting out for there. And then by week 1, you knew, this is the place for me.
Yeah, totally.
How was your first, say, 100 days of AKR?
I tell you, I wouldn't have looked back. I mean, I talk about you as like, you're just part of my life now. It's like having a wee family, is it? And it's never, I never really would say that I've got to go to the gym or whatever. I look forward to it. It's nice to be pushed. I don't, it's not like you shout on them. Maybe you do sometimes, but
that's just because you don't hear me. It's not that you don't hear me, you just choose not to listen to me. You're like the rebel at the back of the class.
Now it all makes sense.
It's all coming into place.
Yeah, but no, I've just loved every minute of it. It's been such a game changer, and knowing that I obviously had that goal. with the paddleboarding. I mean, even getting onto a I mean, I actually learned to paddleboard on Easter Monday this year. Was it this year?
I think, Rachel, you started in November. We went into our second lockdown on Christmas Eve for like 4 months.
Yeah.
And you were just getting into a routine of things. But what pulled you through that lockdown?
Well, you know something, because one of the things, I mean, had been doing the Pilates up until, I think I managed to carry on up until probably about, because they obviously went on to Zoom, and I carried on till about, I think it was June, and then I was just like, my heart wasn't in it, and it was like, this isn't good. And I was dipping out of classes, and it was just like, and I eventually stopped doing it, even though I knew that it wasn't. But I think the thing with that is they didn't, although they went on to Zoom, they were physio-led, they didn't have the capacity to look at you and still adjust you. And that was the confidence I had in that, is that you knew that you were going to be in the right position and you weren't going to do yourself any damage. So Zoom, it's been a great thing work-wise, and everybody's had to get into it, but it's also can cause a bit of fatigue. You know, you're just like, I'm in Zoom. And also the fact that my Pilates wasn't flexible with time. So like it was like 7 o'clock on a Wednesday night or whatever. So everybody else had to get out the living room. Yeah. I had to do my thing. Sometimes have the dog jumping on your face if they're just coming for a walk or whatever.
The joys of Zoom.
Yeah. But it just, I was so over Zoom, it was unbelievable. I remember you saying that. And then when we had that lockdown, I mean, I'd loved going out into, even with Fabio in the park, doing, and I think all of you were doing it in the park, were you? It was great. And I never thought I would do that, because I thought, I don't really want people watching me, that I don't, you know. So that was another kind of game changer, that you felt a bit more comfortable and confident doing that. But when it was like, I'm going to have to go to Zoom, I'm like, Jesus, it's not for me. I hated Zoom. But I remember you saying, just give it a go. And I'm like, okay then. And it was great. It was totally different, because it was a game changer for me, not only for the fitness side of things, but even work. Yeah. Because like with Zoom and working from home, you're sat on your backside, getting engrossed into your work, and you're lucky if you stood up every couple of hours or whatever, you know. So I actually had a little bit of a shift in my thinking. I thought, right, I'm going to be a bit kinder to myself. I looked at the classes when they were timed, so I was like 9:15. I thought, right, stuff it, I'm going to protect that time. And I'm going to have my exercise and get that done. And that really saw me through. I think, you know, that lockdown period, it seemed like eternity. That really got me through.
It's you prioritised your health and fitness and took time for you out of the day, because you knew you were sitting there for all day. So why not get up, work a little bit in the morning, 9:15, okay, I'm going to take a break here because I deserve it. Yeah. And exercise, feel good. Yeah. And did you have the mentality of the goal in mind then, or was it just very much day-to-day?
It was still very much in mind, because I'd still not been on the paddleboard. It was the April Easter Monday that I got onto the paddleboard, and even that, because it should have been the month before, but the lockdown was obviously extended slightly. So I booked that session at Rubislaw Quarry.
I remember it.
And Easter Monday, where it was minus 2.5 degrees.
Yeah, it was snowing.
It was blizzards.
Yeah. Just to sort of summarise that, you came into us in November, you started getting into strength training, really enjoying it. Yeah. Were you feeling the benefits of it?
I was definitely feeling stronger. Definitely feeling. I'd lost, I think as well, I'd lost probably about 1.5 stone as well by then. So, I mean, that was a big game changer, because the extra weight was kind of getting to me as well. So, I mean, it's not a massive, and it's, you know, it's not a lot. Well, I suppose it is a lot of weight, but when you know how it's impacting on your actual movement. Yeah.
So you got to then the second lockdown hit, or third or fourth, I can't remember. Anyway,
lost count.
And you were like, oh God, Zoom, because you've had bad experience on it, but actually you prioritised your time. You got in. you zoomed all the way through it, started coming back to the gym, you got on the paddleboard. How was that first experience of the paddleboard?
It was fab. I loved it, apart from the snow, but no, it was great. I didn't stand up that first day, but I didn't feel pressured to. I just managed to kind of look at I wasn't even sure when I got from the little pontoon, having to shimmy over. I mean, I probably couldn't even have done that before, physically. So shimmying onto this blooming board and then floating about the place and trying to sort of, and then actually kneeling upright and not thinking I'm going to fall off. It was actually really, really quite good. And it gave me confidence. I mean, I knew I was on the right track. I still hadn't come to the enormity of how long I would have to stand up and paddle for the...
Yeah, so you had three months of regular training in here. Were you practicing your paddleboard once or twice a week?
Well, I had booked sessions with Up to Summit at the pond, but to tell you the truth, I think I outgrew their pond on the first day.
Did you?
Yeah, I felt really... Once I stood up, I think that was like, yes, I don't know I'm going to be able to do this.
That's the rebel in you. As soon as you stood up, that's it, I'm off.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
Was that a massive confidence boost?
Oh, totally.
You knew then,
yeah,
I've got this.
Yeah, and it was, I'd done a mixture of going out on, because I've grown up near the water and I know how much you have to respect it.
Well, that's lossy for you, isn't it?
Yes, totally. You were the Peterhead loon as well. So I actually, it was Matt, bless him, he'd seen the advert for Lidl, so that's where I bought Lilo Lidl.
Is that the name of your paddleboard? Lilo Lidl, okay. So we've got Lilo Lidl.
So yeah, I got her and I was doing a mix of so Lilo Lidl was kind of getting trips out to Lochaskeen a bit safer and all that sort of stuff. And I was going out on the sea with Up to Summit, or I've done the River Dee and that as well. So a few different sort of experiences. Found out that, I mean, my balance is, I think, pretty good. Because when I think about some of the days that I've been out with them, thinking, should we be out on this? And I can stay upright,
all that strength training and
amazing
Pilates, everything just brought you through that.
Totally. I mean, even because I have to adapt getting up. I can't get up like the squat position straight. So I'm more of a downward dog and up and up. So so it's just all been absolutely cracking. I would not give it up. I actually kind of think what's going to happen like in years to come when these lot kind of grow up. Are they going to? What's it going to be like?
When you grow up.
Well, when you how that's. I don't like change much, and there's a lot of change happening. You're moving on, and you just think how are things. And I thought I don't really want it to change, but I suppose it will in some way. And it'll always be good because I know there's really good values behind this, and that's kind of one of the things I think that people love about it.
Yeah,
so
good.
Never change, Mike.
Let's talk about Up to Summit.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about all that training's gone to good.
Let's end the suspense.
Yeah.
Did you do it? Did you complete it?
Of course I did it.
Yes, of course I did. No one was ever in doubt.
Yes.
No one was ever in doubt. How did it feel?
It was amazing. I mean, I don't know if I was so confident I could do the paddleboard and there was a lot of miles. We always say 60 sort of miles.
60 miles.
60 miles.
Yeah. And it's over. I mean, Loch Ness is a beast. I don't know if you've ever paddleboarded on it.
I mean, I've looked at it.
And what was the nice hotels you stayed in like?
None. I was in a hammock with a bit of tarpaulin over my head.
Wild camping.
I'm not a camper. I'm a lady that likes my comforts. I like my hot showers because I do have pain in my body, and hot showers and comfy beds. It's something that
you liked hot showers, but decided to go paddleboarding in Scotland.
Yes,
and sleep in a hammock.
Sleep rough.
Outdoors.
That's the only way to do it, I think. That's the experience, is it?
It's totally. I mean, I would not have changed it. I mean, the weather could have been better, but something. When I look back to the last day, we did the second half of Loch. We didn't manage to do it in the linear kind of route, because if you're a paddleboard, the wind is your enemy and it can be your friend, and you have to use it to be your friend. So we did it sort of bit by bit. we were lucky because we had, support to help us do that. But the last day of Loch Ness, I mean, I've never been on the sea when it's been that rough, and it was the only day I fell off that paddleboard.
And what mile was this left of?
This was, I think we did 18 miles that last day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well done.
So,
look at that.
Yeah, I think I did about two-thirds of it probably standing up, and some of it on my knees, because it was pretty, there was white horses, and it was wild. Yeah. It was wild. So
and how when you got to the end, how did it feel?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Fact the fact I actually did a Hawaii 5-0 job coming in as well.
Dived over.
Yeah.
No, you didn't only just do it for youth though.
No.
Perhaps a bit more.
I've managed to raise just under $2,500 for the
Amazing.
homeless. So that's going to a community outreach group that's kind of helping people that are homeless, not only giving them hot food and drinks and stuff, but also to help them sort of assess their lives and look at, where they can be helped, whether it's trying to get them, is it healthcare or, support around employment, all that kind of thing. So, yes.
Very rewarding.
Very, yes.
Amazing. What a story, Rachel. Honestly, it's been so good. What's next?
Oh, well, I do have, because I've got my 50 things to do before I'm 50, and I used to be a motorbike rider. I haven't been on a motorbike for 15 years now.
I sense a butt coming here.
Well, I'm hoping, I think it might be next year. I'm not sure if I'll do it this year. Depends on the weather. But I would love to ride a motorbike again. The kind of position's slightly different, and so I've actually spoken to some bikers that do, the tests and all that.
Yeah.
So I've said, this is what the situation is.
Is it the way that you're sitting on it? Is it just too uncomfortable?
Yeah,
the hip doesn't have that movement?
Yeah. And I suppose it's the kind of, it's if you put both your feet down, am I going to be able to, without it, because it's my left leg that's got the nerve damage that kind of makes it a little bit, plus I can feel the metal digging into my bum muscle as well, where the plate is. So they're gonna take me on and give me a lesson, and I'm just gonna take it from there. So I want to I think that's my thing. I want to kind of turn up at the door and go, toot toot Steve, let's go out for a ride. Because I tell you, he would shit himself.
Less toot toot, more rev.
Yeah, definitely.
Here's your helmet, let's go. I'm looking forward to hearing how you get on with that.
Yeah,
That'd be so good.
Yeah, so that's one of my next ones. But I'm trying to think what I would do would it be a paddleboarding challenge? I'm not sure. Not sure.
I feel like you've done that.
I want to do a beast race, but I'm sorry, but I've got a luxury night away. Maybe next year.
Rachel loves her luxuries, but we'll sleep in a hammock for charity. Is there anything that you would like to touch on that we've not talked about today at all? Or leave the listener with anything?
I don't know. No, I would just say, God, I love, the AKR, always keep reaching. I think it's such a great sort of statement. Don't sit still, because the world's just, it's a dull place if you just sit and don't make the most out of your life.
Time's going by anyway, right?
Yeah, totally.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Your story is inspiring, and I look forward to the day that you outside revving that engine on that motorbike.
Rachel, thank you so much.
Thank
Folks,
you so
if
much.
Rachel's story has inspired you, please get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you and love to help you out. And, like, share, review, and we'll catch you on the next one.